All right, you should be good to go.
All right. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Trevor Modesto, and I did my speech on deforestation. Do you like to go out and get some fresh air every morning, or do you like the nice weather? Well, if we continue to deforest our trees, we won't have any of those things, as trees are beneficial for our lives and weather as a whole. The trees could be beneficial as it could reduce the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere, as well as use that CO2 to convert that into oxygen into the air we breathe. The purpose of this speech is to inform everyone about what deforestation is and how it could impact our lives. These are my sources that I chose. These are all articles. So we have Model Response to South American Climate to 3 Decades of Deforestation by Yelin and Guilin Jiang. Consequences of Underestimating Ancient Deforestation in South India for Global Assessment of Climate Change by Gerard Bourgeon. Is there forest transition, deforestation, reforestation, and development by Thomas Riddell? And the opposing effects of reforestation and afforestation on the diurnal temperature cycle at the surface and in the lowest atmosphere model level in the European summer by Marcus Brielle. So, a little bit about deforestation. You're probably wondering, what is deforestation? I've never heard of deforestation ever. Well, in the left top picture, that's what deforestation would look like. It is the clearing, cutting, and removal of trees from a certain area permanently. And these plants and trees are used for either fuel, like in a campfire, or used for any type of fire in factories, material such as paper, and can be used for the land itself, for big businesses. This happens to forests, ranches, farms, and other places with an abundance of trees. There is a problem, a solution, and an impact about deforestation. The problem is the issues with global warming. Global warming has become a really big issue, and trees are one of the main ways to reduce that. The solution would be reforestation. So, reforestation will be rebuilding trees one by one in a designated area, and they cannot be cut down by any means. And the impact is to reduce the global warming and the CO2 that happens in the atmosphere or released in the atmosphere. The first, I will talk about the problem. So, you know a little bit more about deforestation. And deforestation can increase heat in one area where trees are not. Oops. Where did I go? Deforestation increases the heat in a certain area where trees are not. So it would be able to heat up the ground and evaporate most of the moisture that comes from the ground from rainfall. So less moisture will be a big impact as it reduces the amount of water needed for vegetation or the trees in this picture. Deforestation, or the trees use their big leaves and they are more used as a barrier for the ground and blocks the sun's rays and radiation from ever reaching the ground. A quote from Jiang: deforestation can cause clear decrease in areas which results from not only the reduced moisture supply. So basically what he means is the heat from deforested areas evaporates most of the water moisture, leaving it to look like this picture, dry and cracked up, and none of the vegetation seen here. So there's no grass, nothing, just dry dirt. This problem can relate to the class as it is beneficial for our lives to think about what impact it has on us as a whole. So before I said trees produce oxygen, and using that oxygen, we could breathe air, as well as reducing the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere. The CO2 is one of the main greenhouse gases that acts as a barrier in the atmosphere, causing almost a blanket to keep in the heat's radiation into the atmosphere, causing global warming. Next, I will talk about the solution, reforestation. Reforestation sounds a little bit like deforestation. It's the complete opposite. It is a designated area for tree growth and replenishing. Reforestation resolves the problem by growing the amount of trees equal to the amount cut down. So I would think about it as a tree for a tree or an eye for an eye. So every tree cut down, another will be grown and planted. A problem with this, or a con, would be um, that it would take a lot of time because plants and trees don't grow overnight. It will take about a few years, probably longer, for trees to grow fully. Another problem would be that we won't have many trees to cover the ground, as it will evaporate the moisture in the ground. So we won't have more like of the blanket effect of the trees, bring shade to the ground. And ecosystems. A lot of species use forests for their homes. So if we don't have deforestation or reforestation, we will have less of a biodiversity in all the species. A quote from Brielle is, because of the increased surface roughness of reforestation generally enhances the sensible heat transportation into the atmosphere. What Brielle is saying, that because of all the trees blocking the heat radiation from hitting the ground, it won't reflect and go back into the atmosphere where it gets trapped by the greenhouse gases. So it would reduce less of global warming. So the impact of this solution would reduce the amount of global warming and CO2 in the atmosphere, and it will result in many more benefits, including less droughts, more biodiversity, and more oxygen. Reforestation, or a quote by Brielle, explains that reforestation in the mid-latitudes, mainly caused by the higher surface roughness of a forest compared to the grassland, enhances the turbulent heat exchange between the surface and the atmosphere. So, as I discussed, we had a problem of deforestation. The solution would be reforestation, as well as the cons of reforestation, as it will take time and money to plant all those plants and trees. So my call to action, we would start off small by just say, recycle the used paper so we don't have to cut any more trees down for that material. And then work our way up by start planting trees in parks and many areas with no green, of course, with approval, and support the companies of reforestation. So there's a few companies that bring people together and do community acts like this, which is planting and replanting all trees and plants that are dug up. Hopefully, you found this information useful, and hopefully, you're more aware of a big problem of deforestation. Hopefully, we could push for a change in our future. Thank you.